The people who seem good, but secretly control your life. The mask of benevolence. Have you ever encountered someone who exudes kindness, always ready to lend a helping hand, yet leaves you feeling drained or manipulated? These individuals often wear a mask of benevolence, making it challenging to discern their true intentions. Such people are adept at presenting themselves as allies. They offer support, share advice, and seem genuinely invested in your well-being. However, beneath this facade lies a desire to influence and control. Their suggestions may subtly steer your decisions, and their opinions might overshadow your own instincts. One common tactic they employ is emotional manipulation. By appealing to your emotions, they create a sense of obligation. For instance, they might remind you of past favors they've done, implying that you owe them. This strategy fosters dependency, making it harder for you to make independent choices. Another method is gaslighting, where they distort facts to make you question your perceptions. They might downplay your achievements or exaggerate your mistakes, leading you to doubt your capabilities. Over time, this erodes your self-confidence, making you more susceptible to their influence. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward reclaiming your autonomy. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions with such individuals. Do you feel empowered or diminished? Do their words align with your values, or do they conflict with your inner voice? In the subsequent parts, we'll delve deeper into the characteristics of these covert controllers, explore their motivations, and discuss strategies to protect yourself from their subtle domination. Identifying the subtle signs. Not all control is loud. Sometimes it whispers. It arrives in the form of a well-meaning suggestion, a comforting smile, or a seemingly harmless comment. But behind the kindness lies a calculated effort to shape your thoughts, your choices, and even your sense of self. These individuals often disguise control as care. They might insist on helping you with things you didn't ask for help with, or check in constantly under the guise of concern. What they're really doing is monitoring your behavior, gathering emotional leverage. You may notice how often they need to be thanked, how they remind you of all they've done for you, how they react when you do something they disapprove of. There may be sighs, silences, or phrases like, "I just thought we were closer than that." It's not anger, it's guilt. And guilt is one of their sharpest tools. You might feel as though you're walking on eggshells, worried that saying no will disappoint them, that prioritizing your own needs will make you selfish, that any assertion of independence will make you a bad friend, child, partner, or colleague. That's not connection. That's control. Control thrives in confusion. When the other person makes you doubt your feelings, when you can't tell whether their help is genuine or strategic, when their kindness comes with an invisible price tag. They may call you sensitive when you express hurt. They may downplay their actions, saying you're imagining things. And they may make you feel as though you're the one hurting them, just by being yourself. True kindness doesn't punish. It doesn't guilt trip or gaslight. It doesn't twist your boundaries into betrayals. As we move forward, we'll examine what motivates these covert controllers, not to excuse them, but to better understand how to protect your energy, your clarity, and your freedom. The fear beneath the mask. Why do they do it? Why does someone wrap control in kindness? It's not always malice. Often it's fear. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of not mattering. Fear that if they don't control the relationship, they'll lose it. They've learned that love is conditional, that to be needed is to be safe. So they manufacture need. They offer help no one asked for. They create problems only they can solve. They embed themselves in your life until you forget what it felt like to choose freely. This isn't about strength. It's about insecurity masked as support. Their need for control comes from a deep-seated belief. If I let people be fully themselves, they'll leave. And so, they twist intimacy into obligation. If you try to pull away, they panic. Suddenly they're hurt. They remind you of everything they've done. They accuse you of being ungrateful. They may even spiral into emotional distress, not always to manipulate you, but because your independence threatens the fragile identity they've built. It's not always a game. Sometimes it's a wound acting out. But even a wound can be dangerous when it's used to bind others. That's what makes these dynamics so confusing. Because the person may genuinely care about you. They may believe they're being loving. But love rooted in fear becomes control. And the more you accommodate it, the smaller you become. You find yourself filtering your words, hiding parts of yourself, living in a quiet performance where their comfort matters more than your truth. This isn't love. This is submission dressed as harmony. Maybe, just maybe, this sounds familiar. Maybe not because you've done it, but because you've felt it. And if even a line of this landed somewhere inside you, maybe that's worth noticing. Not to judge, not to fix, just to stay with. If these words echo with something in you, stay close. There's more to see. When love becomes a leash, they say they love you. They say it with flowers, with favors, with endless advice, but it starts to feel like you owe them something in return. Suddenly, your choices are no longer yours. You can't take a step without considering how they'll react. You start curating your life to keep the peace, even if it means losing pieces of yourself. This isn't affection, it's possession. You begin to notice how your world shrinks, how your boundaries bend, how your freedom begins to feel selfish. Love, when wielded as leverage, isn't love. It's a leash. They don't need chains to bind you. They just need to convince you that leaving would hurt them too much. So you stay, not out of love, but out of fear of causing pain. This is the trap of emotional debt. They've built a narrative where their kindness demands your compliance, where your freedom becomes betrayal. But real love doesn't keep score. It doesn't cling or coerce. It celebrates your autonomy. It makes room for your growth, even if it means letting go. So ask yourself, are you loved for who you are, or for how well you conform? Are you supported or managed? Love should never be conditional upon your silence. And if you're constantly negotiating your truth to preserve someone else's comfort, you're not in a relationship. You're in a performance. The wake-up call. You start to feel tired. Not physically, soul tired. The kind of fatigue that comes from living out of alignment, from pretending too long, from suppressing the parts of you that don't fit. Maybe you don't even recognize it at first. You just feel anxious, unmotivated. Number. You blame yourself. You try harder to be better. But beneath that pressure is a whisper. Something's off. This is your wake-up call. When your joy feels like rebellion. When your boundaries feel like betrayal. When honesty feels like danger. Not because it is, but because it might upset them. That's the sign you're living inside someone else's comfort zone. It's a slow awakening. You begin to notice how small your life has become, how much energy you spend managing someone else's emotions, how your self-worth has become tethered to their approval. You don't need a fight. You don't need a grand exit. You need clarity and the courage to honor it. It begins with tiny choices. Saying no without a 5-minute explanation, pausing before you agree, not apologizing for needing space. These moments, small as they seem, are acts of reclamation. They are you returning to yourself. You're not selfish. You're remembering. You're waking up. The mirror of freedom. So here you are. You've seen the mask. You've named the guilt. You've recognized the weight that was never yours to carry. What comes next isn't about blame. It's about boundaries. It's about knowing that your worth is not measured by your obedience, that your truth is not a threat, that your needs are not burdens. You are allowed to take up space, to speak plainly, to want what you want without explanation. Freedom begins in the smallest of moments, in trusting your intuition, in declining what no longer fits, in reclaiming your time, your energy, your voice. And yes, some people will be uncomfortable. They may push back, call you distant, selfish, changed. But you haven't changed. You've returned to the self that remembers who they were before the guilt, before the pleasing, before you mistook being needed for being loved. This is not rebellion. It's remembrance. You are not responsible for regulating other people's comfort. You are responsible for living your life in integrity. And the ones who truly love you, they won't fear your freedom. They'll celebrate it. So step into the light, not with rage, not with vengeance, but with clarity, with quiet strength, with peace. Because now you see, and once you see, you cannot unsee. The mirror has turned, and what it reflects now is not control or guilt, but a person finally free, a person who loves without needing to be small, a person who stays only when they can stay whole, a person who knows kindness is never control, love is never leverage, and peace never comes at the cost of your soul.